What's up, everyone? This is Sarah Hudson.
And this is Evan Bogart.
And welcome to Right to the Source.
Listen, we all know creativity can be your best friend and your worst enemy. On Right to the Source, we dive deep inside the minds of creative beings to find out how they do it. Today, let's find out how E.J. Hill does it.
So let it go and let's go right to the source.
We create a mental atmosphere.
Right to the source. Right to the source.
Yes.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi, Evan.
Tell us about our guest today.
This episode's guest, E.J. Hill, has been one of the most important, transformational, and trailblazing contemporary artists of the last 5 years. Born and raised in Los Angeles, E.J. received his master's in fine arts from UCLA in 2013 and has literally been turning heads ever since with his ingenuity and innovative practice that incorporates painting, sculpting, writing, installation, and durational performance art as a way to elevate bodies and amplify voices that have long been rendered invisible and inaudible by oppressive social structures. EJ has quickly made a name for himself with his brilliant creative offerings that have been featured all over the world, including at the Studio Museum in Harlem, where he was artist of residence, the Institut d'Art in France, the Underground Museum in Los Angeles, and most notably the Hammer Museum that featured him and his award-winning, critically acclaimed durational performance piece, Excellentia Molizia Victoria. He has been the recipient of the Art Matters Foundation Award, the William H. Johnson Prize, the Foundation for Contemporary Arts Grants to Artists Award, and shortlisted for the Future Generation Art Prize from the Viktor Pinchuk Foundation in Kiev. EJ's work is inspiring a whole new generation of artists with the way it challenges social norms and pushes the boundaries of how we all think and feel about bodies valued within different social and cultural contexts. EJ, we are so excited to have you as our guest and hear all about you and your creative process.
Yay!
Thank you.
Did you like hearing that blurb?
I mean, it's always really wild to hear it back because,
Right.
you know, it's I remember doing all of those things, but then to like hear it in that way, like mixed in with critically acclaimed, makes me feel like somebody that like I would have looked up to.
Right.
Or do look up to.
No, I always love hearing, like, after we read the blurbs, our guests, and they're kind of like, whoa, like, I do those things, you know? Because I feel like as artists, we just are like, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, you know? So it's cool to hear it.
It's kind of like, it gives you like a gratitude list to go off of the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, you know what? Today's great.
Yeah, like, I am doing something with my life.
You know, somebody cuts me off in traffic. I was like, wait a minute, but I did do that one show 3 days ago.
Right.
And that was really cool.
Critically acclaimed, okay?
So EJ, we start every episode with a segment called A Rose and a Thorn.
Mm-hmm.
Hit it, Sarah.
And we sing live, so enjoy.
A rose and a thorn. A rose and a thorn. A rose and a thorn.
So good. So good.
Okay.
Sarah, what's a rose?
So a rose is basically something you're incredibly grateful for right now. And a thorn is something that's literally a thorn in your side, and you need to just pull it out and let it go. So we'll start with the rose because gratitude should always come first. And we'll end with the thorn so we can literally sage it away and let it go. So let's start with everyone's rose.
EJ, you go first.
If you have yours.
Do you have a rose in your life right now?
Yeah, I think I have a rose. I think my rose would be, you know, being able to do things like this. Like I'm at a point in my life and in my work where it doesn't feel all the time like labor, and I think I've worked so hard to get to the point where work can start to feel like play a little bit, and I think my rose would be being able to do stuff like this and call it like part of my job.
I love that.
You know?
I think that's great.
That is a rose.
I mean, that's like the rose.
The rose.
As a creative, that's like the ultimate rose.
It really is.
Right? Sarah?
My rose is, it's probably all I'm going to talk about, but my rose today is Egypt because I just got back from Egypt 2 days ago.
Not because you're in denial.
Wait.
But,
Nice.
Well, I was actually on denial for a while, but no. Yeah, I just got back from Egypt and spent like 12, 13 days there, and it was just so unbelievable. And I had no idea what to expect, and just being able to experience like the pyramids and these tombs and temples and all these things that I've seen in books, my whole life, to just experience them in real time was just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. And then coming back to my life here, it just puts everything in perspective going on trips like that, because you're like
Like in a positive way.
yeah, because you're so in your bubble, and then when you're taken out of your bubble and really put in front of something that is just so much bigger than you, like the energy I felt there was this just such God energy of like, holy shit, we still don't know how these things were built. It's just so incredible that you come back here and you're like, oh, my bullshit fucking worries about like this and that mean nothing.
When I go to places like that, I've never been to Egypt, but I've been to other like amazing wonders of the world or whatever. And every time I'm there, I always think to myself like, okay, this is when I feel like I'm actually in a simulation. Like when they talk about simulation theory, like this is the moment that I feel like I feel like I'm in a game.
When you're
like,
at the
when I was
at
like earlier this year when I was at the Great Wall, right? And I was like, I'm on the Great Wall of China right now. Like that's like the most bizarre thing I could ever imagine doing. I feel like I'm in a video game or something.
Yeah, it's funny because I had a lot of times where I had to like check myself and be like, this is not Disneyland. This is actually real.
Right. It's like, what's Vegas? It's like,
Yeah.
am I in Paris or am I at the Paris Hotel?
Right. It's weird because when I come back here is when I feel like I'm in the simulation.
Oh, right.
I feel like
You get plugged back into
in
the
the
simulation.
Matrix.
yeah, I feel like I'm back in this weird, matrix, literally. And then when I'm taken out of it, I'm like, oh my God, this is like real life.
Real life, yeah.
Anyway, so that's my rose. I'm so, 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 so grateful for that experience.
My rose is community. I spent the last week with a community of creatives, brainstorming ideas of how to make the music industry better, how to make the entertainment industry a better place for creatives to thrive in, and I was just so inspired by everybody else. It's like we have our smaller communities that we build within music or within other creative disciplines, but like when you start uniting people from all over the globe to come together and the community expands, you just start to appreciate like how much community there actually is that you're not tapping into. And I just felt really grateful that there were so many. Honestly, I felt relieved with all of the like uncertainty, what's going on with music and technology and for songwriters getting paid or whatever it is. It's like I felt relieved to know that there are other brilliant minds out there in this larger expanded community that are trying to solve these problems and coming up with amazing ways to make life better for creatives. So for me, my rose right now is community and appreciating the community that I've built, the small community or that I'm a part of, and the little communities I'm a part of, and the greater community that I didn't even really know existed.
I love that. It's very important in art and creativity
to build community, to have community. I just don't feel alone.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like it makes me feel like I'm in it with everybody.
Yeah, I think this whole thing though, just creative endeavors, all types of them are at their core inherently social, I think it's like idea based, and when we communicate our ideas, there has to be someone else out there to receive it. And even that relationship is like immediately like, there's communities of two people, but it has to be outside of ourselves.
Yeah, that's so true.
So true.
It's crazy too, because it feels very lonely sometimes.
That's what I mean.
And isolating, and I think like solitude and being alone is very important. But I know for me personally, sometimes I can get in that mindset of like isolating myself too much and not reaching out and not, you know, expecting others to understand how I'm feeling. But when I do, it's like, oh, you feel the same way as me and we can do this together. And I don't know, it's definitely a great feeling to have the sense of community.
Yeah.
I love everyone's rose.
It's a cute little garden we're starting
Yeah,
here.
our garden is so
Yeah.
gorgeous. Okay, so now let's move on to our thorns. EJ, do you have a thorn going on that you need to sage away?
Yeah, I guess this is somewhat in line with, oh my God, with the rose. Yeah, because roses have thorns. Oh my God, I get it. Okay. It's like, whoa, okay. It's like
We need both. We need both.
processing in real time. Okay. But yeah, I guess it would be kind of related to the rose that I spoke of a little bit ago, because the thorn happens to be, even though, you know, I get to sort of like settle into what feels like the beginning of my adult life. There are a lot of things that feel really pressing just socially. You're talking about community and the fact that, like, you know, we're not this floating orb by ourselves. Things don't happen in isolation. I'm finding it far more difficult to assert myself in ways that doesn't totally discount someone else's position or authority. It's been really tough to
What do you mean by that? Like,
I mean, like, setting my own boundaries, you know, like I've spent an entire lifetime of, like, you know, acquiescing to other people's, like, desires and wants and demands for, like, my presence and my time. And so now that I'm kind of like, well, I've learned all of those lessons, I kind of want to, you know, again, like, assert my agency and, like, my will. But when that is incongruent or disagrees with, like, someone else's idea of how they want to move through the world, that's been really thorny because
I really relate to that.
you know, I think I've been seeing a lot of, as I grow, just having to distance myself in a way from certain places or people, and that's been really hard.
Do you feel that because you are pushing boundaries that it ignites something in other people that it makes them uncomfortable, and then so they want to sort of push their boundaries on you or their ideas of what or who you should be?
Yeah, that
Because I feel that.
that makes sense. It could be, yeah, you know.
I think because it just maybe scares people in a way when it's like something they're not used to, you know?
Right. I mean, change is hard, you know.
Yeah. I really relate to that. And I always wonder, like, why do you, being like another person, why do you have such an opinion, or why are you so concerned with what I'm doing? Like, just let me do what I'm doing and you go do you. Like, why does it? I don't know if I'm even talking about the same thing as
I
you.
think you are.
But I that's how I sort of relate to that in a way.
No, I think we're on the same tip, because I think, you know, some people might feel threatened by seeing someone who is maybe a bit bolder in their approach to living or confident, and all of those things taps on people's insecurities. And
Oh, for sure.
insecure people are generally the ones who kind of lash out in those moments.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
So I don't know, maybe I don't know, is this just part of it?
I think so. But I mean, but the thorn comes on the rose.
Oh my God, yes. Okay,
You know?
full circle again. All right.
And your rose really was also like, your thorn makes sense on that rose. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I love seeing that.
I love when
like,
they connect. Yeah. All right. You have a thorn?
My thorn is also actually on this particular rose. I think I get really sad after these kinds of trips. And it's like a selfish feeling because I wish I was like back there experiencing more. And, you know, I don't know if that's selfish, but I think my thorn is just like this sadness that I feel when I go to these places or experience something outside of my, you know, world. I just feel so inspired and so like, oh my God, there's so much more out there that I haven't seen or that I haven't experienced. And I come back to my life, which I love and I'm very grateful for, but I'm also kind of like mourning it in a sense. I don't know if that makes sense. Like I always sort of mourn these like trips. Like I miss the pyramids almost, you know, like
I always feel like it's like the people you're with. I feel like I'm at like camp or something, or like,
yeah,
it's like when I come home, I always feel like it's the last day of school. Will you sign my yearbook? You know?
Exactly. It's the whole thing. It's the people, it's the place, it's the experience. It's that, you know, amount of time where you're just like going places, doing things. It's like a high, you know? And I
Right,
think
yeah.
coming down from the high is like, I get this sort of sad, like void feeling. Obviously, I'm so grateful, but I'm also like, oh my God, I want to be there again. And so I don't know. It's definitely like
But if you lived there, it wouldn't be the same.
Exactly. I mean, of course.
It's the fact that you're visiting that makes it special.
Of course, yeah. And that's why it's a beautiful thing. I think it's just I get like sad. I get very emotional.
Like
after.
melancholy.
Yeah, it's a melancholy kind of.
Those post-travel
By the way,
blues.
it's
Yeah.
like one of my favorite words ever.
I love melancholy. What a word.
What a word, right?
Melancholia, that movie.
Or like Melancholy in the Infinite Sadness, the Smashing Pumpkins.
Right. Oh, what an album.
Yeah.
Wow, geez. Melancholy is an amazing word. I also love the word nostalgia.
That's a good one.
I like
What
nostalgia.
a word. And what a feeling.
Or yes-talgia.
Ooh.
Not nostalgia.
Okay.
Or like maybe nostalgia.
Yeah,
You know what I
maybe
mean?
nostalgia. But that feeling, actually, nostalgia, is like one of my favorite feelings.
Oh, yeah. It's the best.
I
Although
get
it's
it.
funny, though, in music, when someone says, oh, this song's nostalgic, I try to read through it. Are you saying it sounds old? But I like the feeling of nostalgia.
I love the feeling of nostalgia. Every time I smell jasmine, I feel nostalgic.
Oh,
Of
is that
like,
from like you were a kid?
yeah,
Did you have a lot of jasmine at home?
I think, and we did in our garden. And there's a certain, in spring in LA, I feel there's this like jasmine smell that comes across the land.
Yeah, we have jasmines.
And
We
it
have a
just
jasmine.
is like, reminds me of like, 16 and crazy. Anyway,
Do you think nostalgia is like, does it have to be like coupled with longing? Is it always about like this kind of like,
Like you're missing something?
yeah, or can it just be like, oh, that was cute?
I think it can be that.
I think it could be just the appreciation.
Yeah, for me, it's usually I'm a very sort of like emotional. For me, it's coupled with longing a lot of the time. Not like longing of being back there, but of this like, oh, it'll never be again. You
I have
know,
things.
this-
I am nostalgic about things that I don't want to ever do again, but I really loved the moment I was doing them.
That's very
So I think that's what you're talking
interesting.
about, right? Like for instance, like when I was a kid, I collected baseball cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I have great memories of collecting baseball cards, trading them with my friends, going to baseball card conventions. Literally could give a shit about baseball cards right now, right?
Right.
Like I would like if somebody's like, "Hey, you want to go to a baseball card convention?" I'd be like, never.
Right.
There's nothing that would get me to one. But I am nostalgic about those times when I was a kid. Like those, I had such amazing memories with friends back then. I kind of makes me miss the friends, makes me wonder what they're up to, But
Yeah, I feel like it's more of because I wouldn't want to go back and be like 16 again, or no, I wouldn't. I definitely would not. But it's just about the feeling, I guess, of like. I'm really going on a tangent here too, but it also makes me think. I always have this feeling of like thinking back to a past memory and realizing, it sounds so dumb, but realizing like it's gone forever. Like I'll never be that person or that age or that time. It's just gone.
yeah.
I know it sounds so like, yeah, duh, but that always trips me out. Like it's just gone.
You'll never be who you are right now either.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Yeah,
Tomorrow, you'll never be who you are right now.
it's just the weirdest thing. Sometimes I trip out on that.
That's crazy, right?
Anyway, moving on to what's your thorn, Evan?
It's so funny because you said something before we started, and I actually experienced it on the way over here. I got into a super like road rage screaming match with somebody on the way over here.
Whoa.
Yeah, and which is so like I don't do that usually. I usually just like when somebody gets mad and yells or something like that in the car, I just kind of like wave and like kill them with kindness kind of thing. That's just like my program, you know. But this dude really like I was just driving slow and this guy was in a hurry wherever he was going, right? I was just driving normal. And so he like rolled up on me and was like slamming his horns at me and I went and then he rolled up next to me and started screaming at me, rolled down his window just screaming at me. Sit at the light longer, go slower. And I just felt like I needed to respond and I just hated it. I felt like shit afterwards.
Right.
What was the response?
Yeah.
Oh, I was agreeing. It threw him off because he was just like, why don't you go slower and sit at the light? And I rolled on the window. I was like, oh, should I go slower? Okay, I'll go slower. I'll sit at the light. You want me to sit? I was agreeing with everything he was saying. He was like, you're driving like an idiot. I'm like, oh yeah, I am driving like an idiot. I was like screaming at him with like affirmations. And
Interesting
it was
technique.
really confusing him. It was really confusing him. But the weirdest part ever was we both got on the freeway. He got into the lane to go to the 134. I stayed on the 101. And I saw him go on the 134. I swear to you, I saw him go on the 134. And as I was pulling off of the 101, he cuts me off again. He like saw me and then like chased me down in order to cut me off on purpose. Like he was like, I'm like, dude, you literally were in such a hurry to get somewhere, but now you've gone out of the way of you were going just to cut me off because you felt like that was some sort of like thing you had to do. I don't know. At that point, I just started laughing. At that point, I was over it. I was just like, you're nuts. Like, you're some crazy person. But I just didn't like how I felt when I responded. And I hate.
I get that.
So my thorn is, it's not as much as it used to be. I've worked on it for a long time. And my thorn is not being able sometimes to pause and reflect before I respond. My thorn is reactionary.
Yeah, I get that.
My thorn is being a reactive person and just being worked up over something and feeling like I have to deliver that response right now, as opposed to like, just chill for a second, think about it. Maybe it was your fault. Like, like pause, reflect, and then respond appropriately if it needs a response. But I was pretty reactive this morning, and I felt like shit. That was my thorn.
I get it.
Yeah.
Road rage is a real
thing.
That's a real thing.
But-
Do you
but just-
drive here?
I do. I just I sold my car in 2014, I think, and then hadn't owned one since until about 2 months ago. So I'm kind of
You're
like
back on the road.
I'm back in so many ways.
Do you like it?
I do now. I think it was time to let it go.
Or
when
were you Ubering or taking like public transportation?
A little bit, and biking. I was like doing it all at different times depending. But I also realized that the life that I was living was very specific to not driving. So I wouldn't, pack in my day with, it would be one thing that I had to do in one location, or maybe if it were two things, I would make it so that it would be easy to get to, and I think just move around the city differently. So my life was very different without a car.
Yeah, I always envy people that don't have cars here. I'm just like, how do you even?
It's doable.
Well, you
do it.
I mean, but you live out there.
No, I know.
You'd have to change your whole life to be circled around you, right?
No, there's no way I could not have a car right now. I'd be like pulling my hair out because I live far-ish. But like when people are like, oh yeah, I just Uber or take the metro, I'm kind of like, oh, that's sick. But also,
I think you might be surprised that like,
really?
yeah.
If I could do it, you mean?
Yeah.
You should do it. You should try it for a month.
Oh my God.
A week. You should try for a week.
I've lived here my whole life and I've driven since, 16. So I can't imagine.
Same.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. We're all locals.
Yes, locals.
Oh, we'll get into that.
Okay, let's take our thorns. Evan is lighting sage live right now. This is a live lighting session. And we're just going to let them go, and we're going to sage them away.
Absolutely.
There's something about those chimes. Okay, EJ, let's get into the good stuff. So, when do you remember first being creative? Like, Your absolute first memory. What was it? Where were you? How old were you? Anything creative.
I think I in the summers would go to day camp downtown. Both of my parents worked downtown, and you know the green YMCA, like near the Wells Fargo building downtown. It's like kind of near Mocha. I went there like for a couple of summers, and I was always that kid who was trying to one up himself with the lanyard string, the
Nice.
keychain
Love
stuff.
lanyards.
So that was like, I think I remember being maybe about 4 or 5 and started with the general box square stitch and then would add like a third one, different color. And then I started to spiral them and they got like,
Shit.
so by the time I was maybe about 12 or 13.
You were an expert.
I had all of these books on like different designs of these lanyards. It was,
Wow.
yeah.
See, lanyards, same as baseball cards.
Nostalgic.
Super nostalgic. Don't want to make a lanyard right now.
Right.
I would actually, if there
You
was
would, no,
string-
you would, but you had books and stuff like that. Like I just remember making them at
Yeah.
summer camp, and that memory is like,
Right.
oh, summer camp.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I love that.
So lanyards at 4,
Yeah,
Lanyards
about 4 or
at
5.
like a lanyard master at 4,
Kind of.
like a books on
Yeah.
lanyards.
Well, I was also an only child, and so this was like that thing that one of many things that kept me busy and entertained for hours.
Love that.
Yeah.
So you grew up in LA,
Born and raised.
born and raised, and are your parents artists? Or was there art in your house? I mean, was it sort of?
I mean, well, now that I look back on it, I can maybe start to understand how maybe a creative approach to thinking and living influenced what I do now. But both of my parents worked in law, and my dad, however, would come home at the end of the day and like immediately, you know, put headphones on and spin records. He was a DJ, and so
Oh,
he
cool.
like, you know,
Sick.
his world was music. And I saw it sort of peripherally.
Right.
But it was never like visual art, and what I'm doing now was it almost happened by accident. But now looking back on it, I did have an example of someone who would need a different space from the, 9 to 5 work day.
And so, so as you're growing up, what are some of your influences? What are you like inspired by? Art? Do you know immediately, oh, I need to have the life of an artist. I'm inspired by art. I'm going to create. Like, where are you getting it from when you're growing up?
Mostly actually music and music videos. I don't know. I think my mind works best when I'm thinking about the thing that you can feel. It's like a pretty visceral thing. I don't actually know a whole lot of people who go to art museums or galleries and really feel things, like the sort of the context around all of this is, dependent on exhibition organizers or curators and the press releases and like reception, and there's a lot of different things that kind of help the machine run in visual art. However, and I'm sure with music as well, I don't actually know anything about the industry part of the thing, but I know when I hear something and when I see other people, we have these things that our bodies react to. We can't always quite say why I like this sound or this arrangement, but like
Right.
it feels more bodily in that way. And so I trust that a little more than I do sometimes even the conditions that make it possible for me to do my art thing.
I love that. It is a very sort of instinctual
Yeah.
feeling of, oh, this feels good. I like how I feel when I listen to this.
And that's enough for so many people. That's like all there is.
Totally.
That's enough for me.
I mean, it's kind of the same for me, at least, in going to a museum or experiencing visual art. I love a lot of pop art, and even we were talking about these panels in this room, and they're just black panels, but I love them. Like, they make me feel something when I look at them, and that to me, I don't know, that's my favorite kind of art, when I'm feeling something.
I know it's a little bit off to the side here, but like these panels. I was at a studio the other day, and someone had actually printed out, I guess, all of the major museums. They digitally archive everything that's in their galleries, and so they like printed out somehow all of these famous paintings, and they made all the walls of the studio, all the panels were the paintings.
Oh, that's dope.
That's so good.
Really cool.
Because he's like, I didn't want people to like look on the wall and see panels or like egg crates, you know? It's
That's
like
so
whatever.
cool.
I thought it was interesting.
So did he print them out on this, like, because it's like a canvas
yeah, it's
type
a canvas.
of material?
Yeah. It went over all of it.
That is so cool.
But it was like themed. It was all like angels and demons and like from like famous art pieces and stuff.
That's amazing. I love
It was
that.
pretty cool. Anyway.
So when was the moment when you knew you were going to pursue your creativity as your work?
Yeah, like, and I just want to add to that, like, you go to school for art, right? Like, so in high school, growing up, were you right away in art classes? Is this like something that you were called to from like a young age, or it wasn't like till you were almost about to go to college?
I found art. I took a pretty circuitous route. I barely graduated high school. I was basically just like, drinking, getting fucked up, and I had no college ambition. I was like, as long as I get out of 12th grade, like,
Same.
I'm gonna be okay.
That's literally me. And I still have nightmares to this day about it. It's so weird.
It's
About
so-
high school.
Really?
Such a
about
crazy
graduating
time.
high school?
Yeah.
About whether you will graduate or not?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so weird.
It was like, I think, I think there's so many things. Well, that's like maybe a different conversation. But anyway, public education system I don't think there's any way to like lasso every student in every school to make sure that they're being, taken care of or considered, or their learning styles being accommodated. Maybe it's an impossibility. Maybe I'm just some, dreamer. But I was one of those students who thrived in other areas that I didn't know yet. And I didn't, at that age, I didn't have people who could identify the ways that I learned best. And so I was like being pushed through, the cogs in the machine as the other students who were like, quote unquote, good students, like how they were supposed to perform. And so by the time I was maybe 14, 15, I was just like, I don't want to do this. This is terrible. Like, I hate this. And so I just like did what I needed to do to just like get out of there.
Yeah.
And so art was not anything that I had any idea about. I knew nothing of.
Wow.
And I, speaking of summer camp, I knew that I liked working with my hands, and I knew that I was, the quiet kid hanging out in the arts and crafts room in the summer. And I would look forward to summers so much because that was the space where I felt like I could.
You were free.
Yeah. I could like bloom. I could like be this person who just like had a good time being alive.
I really relate to that. Oh.
So I, at summer camp, met this older artist, Margaret Nomentana. She, at the time, I think was maybe in her early 60s, and I was assigned to help her with a drawing workshop. To be her assistant. And it was then, I think at that time I was about maybe 22, 23. And I was like, oh, well, this thing's kind of cool. Like, what is this? And then that's how it all happened. I applied to art school on a total gamble because one summer I met this eccentric painter lady, and I was like, this is kind of fun.
Wow. So after high school, you were just kind of figuring it out. What am I doing? What am I passionate about?
Right.
And then at 22 is when you were like, oh, wait, maybe this is...
Yeah, it was a big maybe.
Big maybe.
Because, like I said, I often say that my first love is music. And I, had an old acoustic guitar that I would just like write songs on, and play coffee shops and open mics and do that whole thing. And so when it came time to apply to school, as I'm thinking about my future, it's like, I've worked every shitty job under the sun. I've like worked so many ridiculous, there's this like mail sorting job that I had for maybe almost a year where it was 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. and I just had to.
I've done something like that.
It was like so awful.
Oh my God.
I did it for for almost a week, and I just didn't show up, and they never paid me, and I was cool with it.
Right. But like people do that
because you know what it was? It was like the
People
paper
do that.
from the sorting. The paper was like getting in my nose and my throat, and I was just like, I'm not going in anymore. This is crazy.
Yeah. It's so after maybe a few years of jobs like that, just one after the other, I was like, there has to be something else. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely not this. And so when I applied to art school, my initial thought was to apply for music, but I was afraid that if I had to pick up my guitar every day for homework for the next 4 years, that it would eventually kill my love for music. So I protected it, and I like put it in a corner and kept it only for me. And ironically, I don't have time to play my guitar anymore because this art thing just like totally caught fire.
Wow. You know? It's amazing though, like it's almost like you were unsure of what exactly your medium was, but you needed to get it out somehow. So it's like you have your guitar, or you have the lanyards when you were super little, or, you know, the music. And it's just cool because it shows to me that your creativity was just needing to come out. And then you kind of, I don't know, found a direction for it at some point, but...
Yeah, like I needed the outlet.
You
right?
needed the outlet, yeah.
I have a question. I want to build off of that idea for a second. Like, do you think that, and it's probably hard to imagine, but do you think that if you didn't write songs for a living, you would think about songwriting differently? Like if it was just something you did for fun on the weekends? The protecting the music thing, because he didn't want to end up hating it,
yeah,
right? And because he loved music so much, so he never wanted to risk hating it, you know? And I'm just wondering, like, are there other creative things, like, is that what you paint, right? Is that like, would you ever pursue that? Or is it like, that's just like, that's for fun?
It's weird because I think that's one of the struggles, at least for me, is not hating songwriting because
sometimes you do.
Yeah, because sometimes I really do. But mostly when I hate it is when the business side is mixed in. So it's like, here we have this precious creative outlet, and then we mix it with something it should never be mixed with,
right? Of course,
which is business and bullshit. And then when it's mixed, you're like, oh shit, like I don't fuck with this anymore. I hate this shit.
Right.
And then you're like, but wait, no, I love it. I need to do this. This is my art, and it's this weird sort of battle. But that's the constant like challenge, is finding that balance in that battle, you know?
It's like, how do you create a creative space that you can monetize but not hate monetizing it at the same time?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
how do you carve it? How do you carve it and create it in a way that works for you, that you can keep out the bullshit?
Yeah,
and minimize the business, but still understand it's a business.
That is
still survive off of it.
That really is the challenge. I think for me, it's like I go and do stuff with, you know, I don't know, I'll go and write some like whatever, like pornographic rap or some shit, like some Peaches, like suck my dick shit. And I'm like, oh, this is fun for me. Like I'm having fun. I have no expectations that this is going to do anything, but I'm still doing music and having fun and remembering that this is fun and that I do love it and I need to be doing music. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't know.
I 100% know what you're saying. By the way, anytime I've ever had success in music, it's from sessions where I didn't think about the business.
Right.
Like any success or anything that I've ever written that I'm proud of has been just like, we're just having fun doing it. Right. So which is the weird thing about it, is because success comes from, I guess, like the pureness of the creativity begets success and not the other way around.
Yeah, that is so true.
Totally, because that's where, like, in that space is ripe for that soul work, you know, that shit that can't be replicated.
Yeah.
You can't, like, slide numbers and, like, do it. You can't figure it. Like, that's that stuff that's, like, totally raw and untapped. And I think that's why people try to create structures to manage that and control that, because they know that they can't replicate it. But if they can put frames around it in a way that can be like packaged and sold, then like that's what you can do. But you can't, like, you know, when something hits, like, you know, when something hits deep, And you can't teach that.
Yeah,
you know?
it's so true. I think that's why too, like in school, I really just related to what you were saying. Like I just did whatever I could to just survive and get out of high school, you know? But I felt the same where I was feeling things and like wanting to express things that weren't being nurtured. And I don't think people knew even how to nurture them or teach them because it's just, I don't know, it's this weird, like instinctual, creative feeling or thing that needs to come out of you. And like you said, you can, I don't know, put a structure around it and try to support it in a way, but you can't really ever. Do you know what I'm saying? Am I making sense?
100%.
Absolutely.
It's like you can't teach it. I mean, I went to music school for like 6 months and it's like, this is cool, but you can't teach me how to be in the music industry. You know, you could teach me numbers and publishing and royalties and all this shit, but like, I have to just go out and do it.
Right.
That is the school.
Yeah. Maybe then all of this stuff is, because I think about the structures that surround creativity all the time, especially now that, there's one that supports me. I have to, or maybe I don't have to, but in order to continue to dream big and manifest ambitious ideas, I feel like a certain point along the way, I've learned to play the game a little bit,
Of course.
so that I can continue to dream. But I don't know if it's something that is absolutely necessary, and I think I've been struggling with this like a lot. So to hear you say that, like you can teach someone the industry, you can teach someone the lanes that you should like travel in order to be quote unquote successful or something. But if you don't have the thing, whatever that thing is, then it's all for nothing.
Yeah.
I think,
It's like you always
So
have to
true.
remember why you're doing it in the first place. I think if you keep that in your heart and your mind when you're creating, it's so easy to forget that.
It really is. It made me think of something when you were just talking, like how amazing would it be if there was sort of like, I don't know, some kind of school for artists or creative types where the things that we're taught are manifesting and how to, and perseverance and, just tenacity and these sort of things it takes to be an artist and be a creative.
How do you teach tenacity?
I mean, I don't know, just in your attitude or ways you go about things or how I did it, how this person did it, or sharing stories. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, what are the tools that we need? It's not necessarily like, well, you need to know how to go to a, coffee house and play your music and here's the chords. And yeah, you need to know those kinds of things too, but also like you need to know the skills that it takes that are bigger than just chords.
It's like a grooming school or something, a finishing school.
Kind of.
No, I hear that. Like, how do you get out of bed and pick up your tool, whatever it may be, the paintbrush, the guitar, the computer,
Exactly.
when you just want to lay around for months? Like, how do you do it?
Exactly. Because we are the makers of our own schedules, essentially, or we, it's really all depends on us at the end of the day. And that's so true. It's like, the discipline, I don't know, these sort of attributes that it takes to be an artist. Nobody tells us about that. I mean, one of my favorite books, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. We talked about it on here before, but that's the closest. He has that book, and then he has another book called Turning Pro. Those are the closest lessons that I've ever gotten as an artist where I'm like, oh, this is how I do it. Like he talks about these things, about manifestation and getting out of bed when you just want to fucking do nothing for days. Or, he talks about these attributes you have to be an artist. And I'm like, okay, this is making sense to me. I don't know. It's just an interesting thought of like being in school and like learning these things that are like mean nothing.
It's so, I just started I just started teaching actually.
Oh, amazing.
Oh, that's great.
Maybe 2 months. We're like right in the middle of semester or past the semester, the midpoint of the semester. And so all of this stuff is on my mind every week I go into this class because there's a group of 18 to 24-year-olds looking back at me eagerly, expectantly, and I'm just like,
for the answer.
I don't know.
Right.
Like, I have no idea. And also, you're paying so much to be here to like look at me as if I'm going to just like, give you the thing that I'm very much still looking for. It's like a very bizarre exercise.
What is the class you teach or the grade or?
I'm teaching, it's a undergrad and grad level course on image making, photography, but thinking about photography from the position of the photograph subject rather than the photographer. So I'm thinking about how to claim one's presence and assert agency, some of the things I was talking about earlier, but like in front of the lens rather than behind it. So
that's incredible.
We're looking at a lot of performance art documentation, and then the other course is a seminar on why are you paying $50,000 a year to like sit around in a windowless room and talk about ideas?
That's amazing. Oh my God, I love that.
Wait, do you pay to go to that seminar?
Well, they pay like tuition to be in school, and I'm kind of like, you're in art school, and it's great that you like want.
But the seminar is about why are you paying to come to art school?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's amazing.
It's incredible.
It gets a little heavy because
Right.
some of these students are like, oh fuck, what am I doing? They have like existential crises like every week.
That's awesome, though.
And I'm kind of just like, all right, thanks, see you next week.
I love that.
It's like when they have the Grammy camps during the summer, and I go and I speak to the kids in high school who are at Grammy camp who are all trying to get into like Berklee College of Music, and they're like, so tell us about your experience. I'm like, well, I didn't finish high school and I didn't go to college and I'm doing fine.
They're like, yeah, no, I always, whenever, because sometimes we'll do these panels or talks or whatever about how to, become a songwriter or get into the industry or whatever. And my answer is always when they're like, well, how do I, get into the industry, or like, how do I, do it as a job, or like, I don't even know what some of the questions they are, but my answer is always like, I don't know, like, go to a museum, go read a book, go sing your song at some open mic, go like just live your life and be creative and have it as an outlet in every kind of way in your life. And somehow it'll be just, you'll follow the yellow brick road somehow, like there is no way to tell someone how. It's just like, get it out of you in any way that you can. I mean, you can tell them go to a record label and give them your CD and, all these weird, like, how to do it. But it's everybody's journey is different.
What's a CD?
Well, exactly. I mean, that's, give them your USB.
Yeah, I don't know.
Email your Spotify link. Anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Do you all know this Martha Graham quote about keeping the channel open?
No.
I've been like coming back to it time and time again. But
I want to know.
It's this thing. I found it maybe like 4 years ago or something. But every time I find it, it's something that just feels so timely again, all over again.
I feel like this might be like, it's like a golden nugget status.
Yeah, it could be.
I love it. Okay.
Oh, word. Okay. Martha Graham.
I love Martha Graham. Amazing choreographer.
There is a vitality, a life force, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And there is only one of you in all time. This expression is unique, and if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is, not how it compares with other expression. It is your business to keep it yours clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. You do not even have to believe in yourself or your work. You have to keep open and aware directly to the urges that motivate you. Keep the channel open. No artist is pleased. There is no satisfaction whatever at any time. There is only a queer divine dissatisfaction, a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive than the others.
Oh,
Fucking amen.
God.
It couldn't be more true.
Love that. It's so true.
That blessed unrest, you know?
Oh, that blessed unrest. Fuck. I heard like 50 tattoos in there. I'm like,
Wait, that's crazy you said that. I was like, you should get that entire thing tattooed on your back is what I was going to say.
literally everything. I was like, oh, I get that here, I get that one here. No, like that is just so.
Definitely the blessed unrest.
Blessed unrest. God, is that not it? It's
Yeah.
like 1 minute too, we're satisfied, or at least me, and then next minute it's like I'm unsatisfied, or like I'm content, and then the unrest, and then it's just this constant.
Yeah.
But you have to feed that animal. There's no other option.
Yeah, yeah. And that is it, essentially, is the blessed unrest. Like, that's it. It's never like you're going to get to this place where you're like, oh, great. Everything's great now. I have everything I need. I've made it. You know, it's never going to be that, ever. Blessed unrest. I'm so like obsessed with blessed unrest.
There it is.
Okay. Anyway, moving on. EJ, what is durational performance art?
Dang, we are getting there. That's what's funny is that that's like it's like so hard.
Hard to explain.
I feel like the other things that we've been talking about in my mind, in theory, if you would have asked me all those questions, I'd be like, what? Like, I don't know.
Right.
But now, okay, what is durational?
I mean, maybe just try to explain it in a sense of like, you know, to me, I think of performance art as I saw this one guy once who was trying to lay an egg for like 2 hours and like, which was amazing. And then we all stood there and watched him. And then finally 2 hours later, he like laid an egg and everyone was like, oh,
That's
and,
amazing.
and to me, I fucking love that shit. So like, I'm like, that's performance art to me.
But just to be clear, you know that he didn't actually lay an egg, right?
Well,
The egg,
I mean,
the
it was
egg,
in
the egg
there.
would have been inserted prior to the performance. Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure you knew that.
I knew that, but I like to live in a fantasy world.
No, that's cool.
And
Me too.
believe him.
Me too. Yeah.
But like, you know, we all have these different ideas of what
Amazing.
art is. But what
Yeah.
is durational performance?
And why?
art?
Why durational performance art?
I think durational performance art to me is it's like a form of art where you know what, not to get all woo woo, but I have a feeling that you two are gonna be totally chill with that.
Okay.
If I like, I feel like it's kind of spiritual, you know.
Oh, we are the woo
We are the woo woo factory.
We're the woo woo factory. So please go there.
Yeah. No, I feel there's this thing that only happens in my mind and my body when I stretch out the action or I repeat the thing to like ridiculous degree. Like, you know, if I'm doing something so repetitive, it no longer becomes about the action and more so about where that's taking me, you know? Like it is kind
It's
of
meditation, really.
Absolutely. And I feel there are a few artists who, you know, when I was starting out and in art school, whose work I learned about that just really, and these are just images of performances from the, you know, 60s and 70s, things that I didn't even witness in real life, but even the images themselves spoke to me in a way. Artists like Chris Burden, Marina Abramovich, these, you know, kind of performance art, you know, Taishing Shea, people who like literally put their bodies on the line in the name of art, was kind of seductive to me. And so when I started to experiment with these forms, I got to feel the limits of my own body and the lines that I had drawn for myself around what I was capable of, or the lines that had been drawn around me from other people or societal structures. Every time I crossed a line and was like, holy shit, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know my body could do that. I didn't know my mind could withstand that level of duress and then like live to talk about it. It kind of became this exercise in, well, if all of these things that seemed impossible or difficult in the beginning are now things that are very clearly possible for me, it was kind of like a way to trick myself into thinking no matter what happened in life, no matter like what kind of shit was thrown my way, because I was able to do these things or set up these experiments for myself where, I'm like trapped in a wall of the exhibition space for 24 hours, or I'm laying in bed in like a public facing window for 24 hours. There's all of these things that I started to do that expanded my idea of what was possible. So in a way, I'm just kind of pressing against possibility.
Does durational performance art have to be immobile?
No, it doesn't. I think for me, stillness and silence is kind of right. Like you can't have movement without stillness. You can't have sound without silence. It's that kind of thing. And I just generally tend toward the quieter side of things. That just feels more natural to me. And so I don't think durational performance needs to be immobile or even quiet. It's just it's the way that like I access my let's call her
The muse.
sun. Yeah, like whatever is out there. Some people call it God. Some people call it, many different things. But the thing that my direct line to whatever that is feels like it's a line of stillness and silence and like subdued.
Do you have to practice?
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, is it something like before you go and do what you did at the Hammer or whatever, right? Is it something that you like rehearse for a period of time? Like, do you build up to it? It's like running a marathon. Do you have to run 3 miles a day, then 5 miles a day, then 10 miles a day, kind of thing?
No, because I say no because I feel like the life that I have lived in this body, in this skin, as a queer body, as a Black body, the world and the way that like things are structured socially has prepared me to endure some unthinkable things. And so that feels like just me living in this skin is like the test. Like that's sort of what leads me into these things being like, you know what? I could probably stand on this podium for 3 months because I've lived an entire lifetime of like this other rigorous training that like I don't think everyone can do.
Right.
You know?
That's
That is
incredible.
That's mind-blowing.
So tell us about the piece at the Hammer. So Excellencia Molestia Victoria. You
Word.
say it. You
Word.
say
Sarah,
it.
I'm impressed. That's really good, actually.
Where for 6 days a week, for 3 months straight, you stood without breaks for food, water, or bodily functions on a sculpture modeled after an Olympic podium. What was the inspiration behind that? You kind of started talking about it, but what was your experience like? I mean, was it torturous? Was it blissful? I can't even begin to.
All of the above.
All of the above.
Yeah.
And so it says 6 days a week. So you had 1 day off, basically. And what I want to know all of it. Like, what would you do in that day?
That's a great question. What would you do on your day off?
Finally eat or
Right.
no?
I mean, yeah, it was actually not a day off at all because it was actually the one day where I wasn't doing the thing. Like I wasn't standing in the museum. And so
Right.
it was the day that I had to do all of my other work. I had to do laundry. I had to go grocery shopping. I had to just like
live your life.
live my actual life for that one day. But I also had an exhibition in New York at Company Gallery literally right after that show at the Hammer ended. So I was like producing an exhibition on that like one day off, like calling framers, like, talking, like making images, taking my camera around and making photographs and trying to deliver. There was no day off.
Is it 20? And it's 20. It's not 24 hours. It's 24 hours a day for 6.
Oh no, it was 9 hours a day.
9 hours a day.
Yeah.
Got it.
9 hours a day, Tuesday through Sunday.
And so you're standing there, and then people are, because I am really familiar with the Marina Abramovic when she sits and you go and stare at her, and was it similar to that, or is it kind of like, can people come super close to you? Are you behind like a wall? Like, what is the configuration of it?
It was an installation that was formed to resemble a track and field. So in the months prior to standing, I had actually run laps around every educational institution that I had attended here in LA, from kindergarten up to high school. And I ran one lap for each year spent at the institution. So, I was in 2 different high schools, and I ran one lap around one and then 3 laps around the other. And so I did this for a few months, and I guess in a way that was the preparation for this standing. But so there were photographs on the wall of the gallery of me running these laps, and within the middle of the gallery was AstroTurf, and then around the perimeter within the gallery was a rubber track, and so the podium sort of sat in the center of the room, and I stood there among the photographs of me running, and in this like track and field type installation, and so the last, the final boss of the video game was UCLA, which is where I went to grad school, and so the hammer.
Oh man, I've run around UCLA.
It's
people run all the time.
Yeah.
That's not an easy run.
It's a 4 mile.
Yeah.
It's like up and down hills.
That's a crazy run.
So I decided instead of doing the run, I would stand, and that would be my final action to complete these series of runs. It's like claiming that like I did it. These schools, these places, these ideas haven't broken me down. I'm still here, still standing. It was a trip.
Wow. That is really powerful. Oh, I wish I saw it.
I went to this writing camp in Denmark, and on the way from Copenhagen to this sea town, there was like a museum. It was mostly an open air museum. It's like, I guess it's famous. I don't know. I forget the name of it. But when we were inside, and like we were with Coffee and Lindy, and there was a performance piece of a naked man and a naked woman standing facing each other. And in order to get to the next gallery, you have to walk in between them.
Oh, right. I remember seeing these videos.
Yeah, we definitely had fun filming that.
That's the Marina Abramovic piece.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's one of them, yeah.
Yeah, so we went through it. We walked through it. That was my
Nice.
experience with
what was your experience? What did you feel walking through it?
I felt nothing, but I will tell you this. Lindy was definitely, she was like...
Uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Right.
It was kind of fun to film her walk through because I knew she would be, but I honestly didn't feel anything. Like it just felt normal to me. I don't know why. Like it was just kind of like naked guy, naked girl, walking in between them, all good.
Right.
He's got a
That's
thing.
like
She's got things.
That's your everyday.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I didn't feel uncomfortable with it. I can see how some people might feel uncomfortable with it.
Right.
I didn't feel uncomfortable with it.
I
think there were people like giddy, like school, like it brought them back to like, they're in school and it's the first time they're seeing like a penis or something like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, people are naked. Okay. People are naked all the time. I don't know. It's just normal. I was just more fascinated with like, how do they just stand there when people are walking through and having these reactions? Like most of the time people are like laughing because they're uncomfortable with it.
Right.
Some people might be like, I'm not walking through there. Like some people might just have like a negative
Angry.
reaction. Yeah. And so I'm like, I was more impressed by how they are able to just
Well, I have
be.
to imagine you get to a state of almost like, maybe not disassociating, but like your body probably just, you get into this meditative state, I'm sure, at a certain point where you're like, you get past all of the human sort of feelings and emotions of like, I'm hungry, I have to pee, I'm tired, my body hurt, like all these, things you would feel as like a human being standing there for hours. And then I'd imagine you'd have to go into a meditative state to survive it.
Yeah, I also think that, when I embarked on the project, when we first started, I didn't anticipate that, but it was something that my body and mind just did like
Naturally.
default, just to like get me there in order to get through the day and almost just like preserve like myself or something. I just like I did sort of like leave. But what was interesting about like kind of like leaving your body in that way, or your mind, is that it never lasted, It was always really great when it did happen, because it made time sort of pass in a way where I wasn't hung up on how hungry I was or like how my legs or knees hurt. I really liked getting there, but I could never get there on my own. I just had to let it happen. And so I would flow in and out of these states. And then I realized after maybe a couple weeks that this was just how it was going to go. I just had to completely submit to this action. Yeah.
Right.
And then even toward the end, because in about 2013, I made this piece where I was silent for 30 days. So I didn't speak a single word for about a month. And I remember feeling similarly toward the end of the Hammer performance, where I was like, well, this is my life now. Like, this is my routine. I'm used to this. And then I became nervous to like
Go back.
Stop standing. I didn't want to come back to my real life. And I didn't, after the vow of silence, I thought I would never speak again, because I just got comfortable in that. And so both times I was like, shit, am I never going to speak again? Or am I just going to like find ways to stand and retreat for the rest of my life?
Does it become like, it becomes like a habit?
It becomes a habit. You fall into the routine or the mechanism that you set up for yourself in this like way of comfort. And the standing, as grueling as it was within the first month, by the third month I was like, well, this is just my life now.
Right. That's so interesting.
Does everything you do, this is going to sound like maybe this sounds like a strange question, but does everything you do have a point of view? Or is it, or are you doing it sometimes for doing it and letting people just interpret it how they want?
I'm pretty deliberate about setting things up in such a way that communicates a particular set of ideas. Like it's important to me that I'm trying to say something. But even in that, I know that people are going to come with their own associations that I have no control over. So I think over the years, I've, devised ways to use materials or use my body in a way that kind of head nods to some of the ideas that I'm trying to communicate, or, like lead the horses to the water, at the very least.
And I'm sure new feelings and points of views and all of it come up after you've completed it all. I mean, I'm sure, do you get to a place where you're like, oh shit, I didn't even think this was going to mean this, or I was going to feel this, or...
Yeah, I think in the Hammer piece, actually, one thing that, comes to mind immediately is some people felt that because I was offering myself up in this way, that it gave them license to touch me, like the sort of social codes that happen like in the real world outside of the museum, like in the grocery store, were completely obliterated for some people.
Wow.
Really interesting.
Yeah. So there, like, that was something that I hadn't quite.
And you have to just take it.
Well, so.
I mean, there's not a sign that says "Don't touch the art."
No,
most galleries have a sign that
right.
says.
Well, so I did a piece in 2016 where I was lying for 3 months on a wooden platform, this roller coaster sculpture at the Studio Museum in Harlem, and so I was touched a few times there, and they did end up putting a sign that said like, "Please do not touch the artist," which is like so crazy.
But was your reaction just you had to be still in the moment, or could you be like, don't touch me?
I think it was case by case, because, I'm the one sort of making up the rules for this. And so each time it would be so jarring that it was happening. Right. And then I had to just like process what do I do here? And the first time in 2016 at the Studio Museum, a woman came, touched me, and I was like so disoriented that it just happened, and she left, and then came back and like did it a second time, and that's when I was like, please do not touch me.
Wow.
And then at the Hammer, this woman, like,
I'm just like blown away that somebody
Me
has
too,
the
like-
balls to go and do
to
that.
come back. This woman at the Hammer, she's looking at the security or the gallery attendants who are kind of patrolling the gallery, making sure that no one's touching the art, or me. I see her looking at the gallery attendant, and then the second the gallery attendant turns around is when she comes behind me and like starts touching my leg.
What?
And I have to tell her like, don't touch me. And
Oh my
and she's like, well, you're just standing here. And I'm just like, well, yeah, this is like, what are you talking about?
That's
Like,
crazy.
so it's just, I can't even believe the audacity that somebody would do that.
But I wonder what it.
Because you would never, like you said, she would never just walk up to you on the street and do that, or anywhere, just because you're standing there.
But I wonder what it, what it made her feel that she felt like she wanted to do that. I
Right.
don't know. Like maybe, like what was she feeling? What was your art making her feel so that she had to like go touch you? Like it's crazy to me. I don't know. Like
I have no idea.
it's just, but that's
No
why
idea.
it's. I mean, it's very invasive and horrible. But also in another way, you're provoking something in somebody,
Right.
that makes her want to go do that.
It's a good point.
And that's sick to me. Like that's so cool. But I mean, it's wrong. But why do we want to go touch like a fucking Picasso painting, or we want to go touch a sculpture? Or it's just interesting. I
Or
don't
like
know.
when somebody says don't push the button and everybody always pushes the button.
Exactly. And it kind of is like a comment on like society and like how almost like, I don't know, we feel like we own everything, or we can like do whatever the fuck we want, or I don't know. It's definitely like makes you think in a way.
I mean, and that was, and again, Evan, to your question of like, do these works have a point of view? I think this is, at least in part, some of what I was hoping to kind of explore or unpack with people is that like my body, the one that I live in, oftentimes doesn't feel like mine, and like these are things that were like brought out in that room is this like history of a body like mine at one point like literally being property,
Right.
And so there's this like history of that, this legacy of some of us not owning our bodies, and then to claim it and own it and put it in a space and present it and say like, I'm here and I'm standing upright. There's like the relationship between seeing a body that I think historically been rendered powerless.
Right.
It becomes like something for consumption, something for you to touch, something for you to engage with that doesn't take into account the person's agency or power. I think these are some of the ideas that I was trying to work out
Totally.
within me, but also in public as well.
That's incredible.
And you do, and I mean, obviously, you don't just do durational performance art. You do all these other kinds of art, all these other mediums of art. So it's like, do you feel the same thing in all of that as well? Is that something that continues in other art, or is that specific to this?
More often it's specific to performance because I'm using my body. I'm actually preparing for a show that opens in a couple weeks. That's just abstract painting because after an effort like that, after doing something like that, these grueling performances, usually my next project or the body of work that comes after that it's like, it's the pendulum swing. I have to go the complete other end of the spectrum to sort of recharge, replenish, and heal. And I've found that when I'm painting with just color and form and trying to empty out all associations, as impossible as that may be at times, it feels more generative, because standing for 3 months depleted almost everything that I had.
Sure.
And now the painting pretty colors and pretty shapes is like storing it back up. Yeah.
I feel that way with songwriting too. Like sometimes it's like you just write to write, and sometimes it's just like it's just weird and abstract, and sometimes it's very intentional and specific.
Totally.
And I think that you need, like I think it's what you're saying too. But like for me, at least, I need both. I need to balance it. I need to be able to feel free to write whatever the hell I want to write, to balance the times that I have to go in there and really convey a point of view.
Oh, for sure. For me, it's finding it in other mediums, like me going in my garage and painting and not having a specific goal for it, just getting it out, that or going to a museum or reading or whatever it is, that generates my creativity back up to then go and write songs, you know? Or like I was saying earlier, going and writing some like, you know, nasty rap, or like going to like work with a DJ where I can write anything and talk about the stars and the this and the that, and getting it out of me in that way. But yeah, I totally relate to that. In your art, your painting, is it abstract in what way? Like what is there a theme to this show? Do you use a certain kind of paint? Like, tell us about it.
Well, the sort of anchor point of this exhibition is I want to get back to playing. I want to get back. I want to get to a space where I'm free, you know. I feel like I get close to that if I'm just making in the studio and not trying to analyze what every creative decision that I'm making in the studio means. Where I'm not, you know, that there's that 10 rules for students and teachers, I think, by John Cage, and one of the rules, I think rule number 8 is like, don't create and analyze at the same time. They are different processes. Like
Sammy says, and analysis paralysis. Right?
God, it's one of my biggest pet peeves in a songwriting session, when you write something and then whoever you're working with are like, I don't know, is that right? Is that good? And it's like, just get it out first and then go back.
And then go back, yeah.
I can't do it at the same time. It makes me angry. Like I feel anger.
Right.
Like authors, you know, that idea of like write drunk, edit sober, you know, it's just like you get it out and then you figure out later. But like,
do you use acrylics, oils? Like what? I'm just fascinated in your tools.
Yeah, acrylics mostly. I've started doing this thing where I'm like carving the surfaces of these wooden panels, and so you know, the idea was like this, like almost like school sort of vibe. So I'm using these traditional classroom materials like the bulletin board cork and the borders that get put up in like a 3rd grade classroom and construction paper, and all of these materials that aren't necessarily like high capital A art, but they sell them in like art sections of certain places.
Very nostalgic.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm using all of these materials, and I'm kind of, in a sense, you know, queering them and like remixing them, updating them, like version 3.0. And it's just me playing with them and figuring it out. But the carvings are like, I was imagining, you know, the black and white composition book, those covers. So I was like trying to make a few of those, but out of wood. And so they're like black paint, and then I'm carving out the wood. And so it's...
I'm sensing a theme here of the sort of school and...
Yeah. It's, you know, I think that's where ideas, some pretty major ones, are first introduced, that kind of chart the course of the rest of our lives, how we treat other people, how we believe we should be or act in the world. And that all happens, you know, we're in school as young people for more hours than we are at home.
So true.
What are some of like, are there other things you don't do in art that you want to? Like, do you have creative aspirations, like art aspirations? I mean, you do so many different things, and the ability to do that. Are there things that are like on your like I'll get to it soon one day bored?
That's a good question. I feel like literally everything. Mostly, what do I want to get to? I don't know.
Music?
I want to find more time for music.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like that was the thing that I had to shelve in order to do this. And I'm not saying I don't hate this. This is like something that has allowed me to live a very beautiful and engaged and fruitful life. And I feel very grateful for, you know, all of the things that I've been able to do these last few years. But again, like I have like 3 guitars, a bass, and like they're all just sitting there.
Yeah.
You know, they sit there and look at me every single day.
They're like, remember us? Maybe there's a way you can meld the two worlds together. Or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that's, you want to keep that sacred. Trust me, I understand.
Like we just went to this place where like, oh,
I know, it's horrible.
and then he's like, no, this is exactly the opposite of what I want to do.
Capitalize on your music. No, it's horrible.
EJ, you know, Sarah and I talk a lot about spirituality, and I know that we've already started talking about that, and having a spiritual practice as a means to balance us so we can connect and be inspired every day. It's something we like to call the daily.
The daily.
I love it.
We're really sick.
I love it so much.
It's our performance art.
Yeah, it is.
No, I'm right here with you.
So I read this book once. Tim Ferriss is his name, actually. He wrote about, you know, super successful and people's daily routines and their morning. It was actually their morning routines, and it was just so inspiring. I don't know. I kind of loved like reading about all the people that I look up to and, you know, what they do on a daily basis. So do you have any daily routines that help you stay connected and creative? Like anything you do immediately upon waking up, or what works for you? What doesn't work? How has it changed over the years? You know, tell us about your daily routine.
Yeah, it's something that I'm trying to get back into, actually. Something that I've fallen off with over the last maybe year or two. But every year since 2005, I have kept a book / journal / notebook, sketchbook, whatever, a blank paged book that just becomes, you know, the container or receptacle for like these ideas, how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. And I've saved all of them. And so now it's this like really dense archive of me moving across the country several times, me falling in and out of love, me, you know, having just like really like bombed failures, you know, and successes. And so I think when I write, it's the first thing that I do when I get into the studio or start the day is just like put pen to paper.
That's awesome.
You know?
That's so major. Do you have you have a studio, like a workspace, or is it where you live? Or are they separate?
Currently, it's a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
The gallery where I'm having a show, Commonwealth and Council, they have provided a workspace for me to produce the exhibition. But usually, I just, you know, moved back to LA about 3 months ago, and I usually have some space set up in my living room or wherever I am. Last year or a few years ago, it was, you know, at my mom's house in her garage. And so it's just
you always
kind of,
create a space that's a workspace.
Yeah.
For me, it's easier for me to be creative when I leave my house.
Mm-hmm.
My husband, he works in our house a lot. I don't know how he does it, but he loves it. But I need to like get up and get out, you know, for me to like almost like be at a job in a sense and be like, okay, I'm working now, you know? I don't know. It's different for everybody. But.
Yeah, I mostly have to leave home to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
I have to leave home to be like collaboratively creative. I think of so many ideas when I first get up at like 5, 6 in the morning, and I just write a million things down.
That's amazing.
And then and then from then on, I have to like, if I'm gonna go write a song, I have to leave the house.
Yeah, I know. Same.
And in fact, I probably don't write song. I couldn't write a song at home. I don't think, but just little nuggets of ideas.
Yeah.
Little bits of inspiration.
Yeah. It's hard because we are creative people who just like live our jobs in a way. So it's like I'm always
thinking of ideas.
Yeah, but
Can't turn it off.
Can't turn it off.
there's something about going somewhere where I'm like, okay, I could like
right.
make this.
Well, it's like you become into a
reality.
creative environment, and it's like you're
Yeah,
stimulated by the other creatives in the room and the walls and the whatever. If it's
Yeah.
if it's the right environment, if it's fostered, curated right.
Exactly.
Does your spiritual process? I mean, we talked about it earlier. Does it play a part of your creativity every day? Do you feel connected all the time like that?
No, I don't. I wish that I did because, the practicalities of a job like this is also answering like a ton of emails and like sending PDFs and files about like, proposals and sketches of ideas. Like it's all of this other stuff that I don't really want to do.
Yeah.
But that I do because it gets me closer and closer to having the levels of creative freedom that I want.
Of course. Yeah.
So no, I don't feel that every day. I wish I did.
But when you're being creative, does it tie into your creative process?
Oh yeah, when I'm actually making and when I get to that sweet spot, it's almost like actually a friend of mine sent me a video recently. We were like installing a show a few years ago that had a swing in the middle of the gallery. And it was like, it's at this museum, Aspen Art Museum. It's huge ceilings. I think it was maybe like 20 foot ceiling or something like that, maybe 25. And the swing is hanging from the ceiling, and I'm swinging up and like almost touching the ceiling with my feet. And there's a recording of me swinging, and I say in the video, not knowing that I was recorded, but I go, "Don't quote me on this, but sometimes this art shit is better than sex."
Haha, that's amazing.
And so when I get to that point,
You were alone. You were talking to yourself.
No, there were like a few of the, museum staff around as we're like still installing, but I'm like swinging inside of one of like the most major cultural institutions in the country, like 25-30 feet in the air.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And just like this and that, and this is my job.
Yeah. That is, how can that not be a spiritual
Right.
experience? Like, I mean, that's incredible. I love that.
So we end each episode with a segment that we call Golden Nuggets.
Golden Nuggets.
Sarah, what are Golden Nuggets?
Golden Nuggets is a segment where Evan, myself, and our guest, EJ, are each asked to bring in or recommend to our listeners something that inspires us spiritually, helps our creative process, quiets our mind, fosters our growth, etc. A tool that we love to utilize in connecting with our creative self. It can be a book, a meditation, a workout, a crystal, a poem, etc. So my golden nugget, I'm very Egypt themed, obviously, today, but it's almost like this little kid book in a way. It's not a kid book, but it kind of reminds me because it's mostly pictures, but it's called Egypt Then and Now. And it's basically these like cool pictures. Like, wait, let me find a good one here. Okay, here's one, the Valley of the Queens, which I went to, which is insane. But so they show how it used to look back in the day with all of the colors and the art, and then you flip the page like this, and then it's like how it looks today. Whoa. Which is how I saw it. But yeah, it's just the dopest book. It just like gives you all these sort of, information about. I also went here, Abu Simbel, how it looked back in the day with all the colors and everything, and then you flip it and it's like that's how it is today, which is still fucking incredible. But yeah, I don't know. My golden nugget, I think overall, it's this book specifically, but it's also just like little I don't know, like trinkets of sort of your travels, you know? I always try to get a book from somewhere that I go just to have. And I have like a whole library now of all these, you know, books and of places that I've been. And not only is it just the memory, but it's also like, again, nostalgia, going back and looking at it and feeling like what it felt like to be there. And yeah, so yeah, like a memory book.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. My golden nugget, I saw a man by the name of Jeremy Hyman speak the other day. He wrote this book called New Power. And the book is incredible, but hearing him speak was even more incredible. And what I forgot was I forgot to be inspired by things outside of my creative medium, right? And so like this book itself talked a lot about like things that apply to creativity and to songwriting, but it was really about the difference between old power and new power, and how new power is about participation and collaboration and crowdsourcing, and talked about how certain institutions are stuck in this old power, old value mentality, and how do you balance, you know, old power with new values. And like it was just so mind-blowing, and there's things from this to take into creativity. And for me, some of the things that I took from it were this fact that new power is made by many, and it's open, and it's participatory, and it's peer driven. And the thing I loved about it the best is like old power was based in currency, and new power is based in current. And that part to me like just literally blew my mind, because it was like the old power, it's like all of the currency I can accumulate it, but current, you can't accumulate it. It's just constantly flowing and running. It's what you can do with it, how you can be a part of it, and how you can bring other people into the current that becomes new power. And so obviously we've seen a lot of movements, whether it's Black Lives Matter or Occupy, that you would consider new power, new values. And then you see like people like Obama, which was kind of like old power, new values. And it's like kind of establishing like what you want to be in life. And so my mind was blown watching him speak and then reading this book. And I just think everybody should read it. I mean, I know that it's kind of business leaning, but there's so much to take from it as far as like who you want to be as a creative and how you want to conduct your creative business moving forward. Like what kind of collaborator do you want to be? Do you want to be stuck in your old ways? Do you want to do it as other people have done it before? Or do you want to be part of the current that's forever moving and forever changing? So I was just really inspired by this book and by him. So New Power is my
so cool.
Is my golden nugget.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
My tried and true golden nugget, and this has been consistent for so many years, is when I'm really looking to like ground myself again or start a new project or just like, reaffirm, I guess, is The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
Oh my God.
Nugget.
You won. Mic drop. Best golden nugget of the season.
Every time I feel a block, or if there's something really difficult that I'm going through in life, or even if it's just like I'm feeling triumphant, like I just won, like that album it hits all of the right notes in all. It feels like a text, you know, like a gospel text. It's like this thing that
The Book of Lauren,
right, you know. And now a reading from it's like it's very it ages beautifully.
Such a fucking masterpiece.
Right, and she's offering it. I mean, like going back like to this whole school thing, it's like the interludes are classroom discussions on love.
Right.
Like it's like how do we embody this thing that we've been taught like is the essence of human connection, but some of us fuck it up, get it wrong, or overpower within it. And here's a person who's like laying it all on the line, saying like, I want to learn this thing so deeply, and I know it's hurt me in the past, but I truly believe that it can be redemptive and healing, and I just feel like that's like that album. That's if I never had to listen to anything else ever again, but that I'd be totally fine.
Yeah.
Do you listen to music when you're creating?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not just that, obviously it changes.
It changes.
Here's all you listen to is Lauren.
Just on repeat.
Did you when you were playing guitar when you were like, is that something you were like Lauren was an inspiration then?
Not quite then. She has become an inspiration for my sort of like playing and musical attempts, but particularly the unplugged Lauren, because it's very guitar centric, and the Miseducation has like a lot of other things that are really like beautiful, but also very challenging for my guitar wheelhouse. But
It's just so powerful music in that way. Like even when I was just in Egypt, I got really sick for 2 days, and I was so like out of my comfort zone and just so uncomfortable, and I was alone in my room, and I put on my album. Like that for me is Madonna, Like a Prayer. Like that's it. And I put it on, and I was just like, it's like everything's okay. I'm like transported to this place of like, it's like my gospel in a way. Did
you hear any Egyptian music when you were out there?
I mean, yeah, there was definitely some musical moments that we had that were it was incredible. But it's like as soon as I put on the album, I was just like, like I don't know, my soul was like, okay,
You're good.
I'm good.
yeah.
And it's just it was really powerful.
I wonder if everybody has that, right?
I think most people do. At least a song or an album, or I hope most people
so,
do.
right?
I know. Like
Mine's A Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders.
Ooh.
I mean,
I could put that on. I can listen to that over and over again for the rest of my life. And if that's the only thing I could ever listen to, I would listen to that album over and
honestly, and Doggy Style, Snoop Dogg. That's another
word.
one for me.
like
That's
that
just put on that whole album, and I'm like, it just takes me to this place. It's again nostalgia too,
Oh, lots of nostalgia.
Lots of nostalgia in that one for sure.
Oh man.
Well, thank you, EJ,
Thank
for
you.
being our amazing
This
guest.
has been great. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for letting us into your creative journey and spiritual process. Where can everyone find you online if they want to follow what you're up to?
I guess mostly Instagram. It's the only social account that I have.
What is that? It's at
I Heart Boys, BEUYS,
BEUYS.
as in Joseph Boys, German artist.
Oh, I love that.
And is it Heart IHEART?
HERT, yeah. EART.
Okay.
Yeah. Did I spell that wrong?
Yeah, no, you said HERT.
Oh.
It's like hurt.
No, let's.
HEA.
Okay, it's at IHEART
BEUYS.
BEUYS.
There
I
it
Heart
is.
Boys.
Love that.
And you can find us at righttothesourcepodcast.com or on our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Right to the Source. We'll have all of our guests' daily routines and golden nuggets up on our website if you want to check them out and see if they inspire you. Also, you can subscribe to the podcast through our website, Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any platform that you listen to podcasts on.
And EJ, I read tarot cards. And before we end the episode, I always pull a tarot card that reminds me of our guest. And we don't know each other. It's the first time I ever met. So I have to say I'm pretty impressed with myself because I just saw this tarot card. I was like, this is it. And after talking with you, it just makes so much sense to me. But it's the Page of Wands. And basically, the Page of Wands is a master at his craft, but he's also an avid student and seeker and always looking to learn more and put out more of his art into the world. And wands represent, basically, it's like a manifesting tool. It's like wands are almost like a magic stick of, boom, I'm creating this and putting it out into reality. So it's all creativity and all art, but it's kind of the best place to be. Like it goes page, knight, queen, king. And the king is like, he has his empire and he's like the master of, of everything. But the page is like, he's still a master, but he's still a student. And I just think that that's the most magical place to be in. And from our conversation, it just really I felt that energy from you. So
That's super beautiful.
there
Thank
you are.
Sarah.
You're the page of wands.
Damn, you're so good at that.
I know, it's so crazy.
Always nail it.
And we've known a lot of our guests, pretty much every single one of them.
Right.
So, well, there's a couple we haven't known, but yeah, I don't know. It just comes to me. Anyway, so thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for tuning in. And don't forget, when you're being creative and want to connect, let it go and let's go right to the source.